Hey everyone, Jamie here from TechnicalCafe.com. Welcome to your 17th HTML tutorial. In the last two tutorials we've been talking about how to create HTML forms and what elements we can go about adding to them, such as text boxes, password boxes, buttons, radio buttons, checkboxes, and stuff like that. So I figured in this tutorial, the third form tutorial, we're going to be talking about two new elements that we can add to our HTML forms, which are drop-down menus or select menus, which allow you to basically select a couple options. I only put in two options here, but you can have as many as you want. And text areas, which are basically giant text boxes. So if you'll notice here, this one is quite big, and it can actually be resized in Firefox and in probably a couple other browsers as well to whatever size you want. And here we just have a button that sends the data to our still non-existent process.php page. So let's take a look at the code here, and I'll show you how to get this going here. So this is the code that we have for this. So let's just erase it here, and we'll start from scratch actually. So let's save that, come over here, and we'll refresh, and you'll notice that our web page is completely blank. So let's get to coding. So we're going to first enter in our basic HTML tags here. HTML, give it a header, and then we'll give our title here. And what we'll say here is we'll say more HTML form stuff. And then from there we're going to give the page a body. So we'll come over here, and here's our more HTML form stuff title in our blank page. We'll just get rid of the stuff and just say more HTML forms. I will leave the stuff. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to be creating a new form, but before we do that, let's just say that, like in our example that I had in the beginning of the page, we're going to be creating an email form. It's not going to work, but it's just basically what the form will do before the data is processed and parsed by the PHP or whatever language you're using. So let's just create some text here. We'll use a header 3 again, and we'll say email page. So we'll save that, come over here and refresh, and here's our email page, or we'll call it contact us. We'll say that, pretend that this is a page in someone's website here. So we'll have our contact us page, and what we'll do is we'll come over here and we'll create a paragraph, and we'll say, please use this form to send us an email. And we'll save that, take a look, and here it is. So now let's go about actually creating the form. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to create our form tags. And if you remember, the form tags do require that you use a beginning and ending tag, or an opening and closing tag, however you want to say it. And everything in here isn't, for the most part, isn't going to require an opening or closing tag, though one thing actually will. So let's come over here, and we're going to indent this, and we'll say input type equals, and then, okay, yeah, we'll do that. We're going to add a little bit more onto this, and then we'll say input type equals text, and we'll say we'll say name. That way the people know who the email is coming from. So we'll save that, come over here and take a look, and we have a name box here. And then we'll create something that's new, unlike the input type equals text box here. We're going to give that a name as well. And if you remember that the name attribute that we're using within this tag is what's actually being sent to the PHP or the process page that we're going to be using, depending on what language you're using. So if you're going to be sending data, it's important to have a name tag. So we'll call this name, or we can call it sender, whatever you want to do. Sender. So we'll come over here and we'll refresh. So here's our basically name form, so we can say our name, and then we'll come over here and we'll create recipient. So we'll give it a paragraph break, see how that looks, and we'll say recipient. And now here's where we're going to be creating a new thing here, and we're going to be using the select box, or the drop-down menu. And you know the drop-down menu, they're all over the internet, so you've probably seen hundreds of them. So what we're going to do for that is, it's technically called a select box or a select menu, so we're going to have to use the select tag. And just like the form tag, the select tag actually does have a closing tag. We'll just bump that down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to create an opening and closing tag for our select menu, and in between these two tags are going to be the options that we're going to have within the menu. So let's just save this, come over here, and take a look at it. So you'll notice that our name is here, and our recipient box is here, but there's nothing in it, and it's actually really small. So let's go about creating that. So we'll come over here, and we'll give it an option. And the way to add options is just to simply say option, and then we're going to create a closing option tag, and then we're going to say value equals, and let's say we want to have an option to send it to person A, whoever that may be. So we'll save that here. We'll come over here and refresh, and you'll notice that still nothing happens. But when we come over here, in between these two tags, we're going to enter in person A, and we'll save it. And when we'll refresh, and you'll notice that now we have a box with our single option person A. So if we come over here now, and we add another option, so remember we use our option tag and our closing option tag, and whatever goes between these two tags is going to be what's displayed within the drop-down menu. So person A for the first one, and it has a value of person A. So what we're going to do is actually just put a little underscore in there, and you'll see why in a second. So option, we're going to say value equals, and we're going to call this person B. Okay, so now that we have that here, what we're going to do is come over here and save. And just like before, we have a blank option because the box is the option tag is there, but there's nothing in there to tell us what we're going to be selecting. So we can select it, but it's not there. So we're going to say person B. We'll save that, come over here and refresh, and now you'll notice that we have person A and person B. So now that we have that option there, let's just close that down there and make it a little neater. We're going to give our select option a name, and we're going to call this person. And you'll see why again when we actually go to submit the form. But the reason why we do that is because when we submit the form, we're going to need to have these values as the name. So it'll say name person equals person A or something like that. So when it gets sent to the page, we know what data we're taking and what we're using. So let's just go ahead adding our text box now. And if you'll remember from the beginning of the tutorial, we didn't have a small text box like we did previously. We had a pretty big text box. So what we're going to be doing for that is not actually using the input type equals text. That will give us a small text box. We're going to be using a totally different tag, and this is what this is called is a text area. So it has its own set of tags. It's not an input type. So we'll say text area, and then we'll close it off with our text area closing tag. You have to have a beginning and closing tag. So we'll save that, come over here and take a look. And you'll notice that now we have a small little text area which we can resize, and that's basically because of the browser allowing you to do that. Just add a quick space, and we'll refresh. And actually we're going to add a little message up here. We'll say, please enter your message. Save that, take a look. Gotta put another space. And I'm just using the paragraph spaces like last time because I like the way that they give it a decent amount of space, unlike the break tag, which will just bump you down right underneath it. But if that's what you want to do, go for it. Just personal preference here. So we'll refresh this, and now we have please enter your message. So let's give them a bigger text box that we can use to enter the message with. So we're going to say text area, and we're going to come over here within the text area opening tag and create some attributes here. So we're going to say, first off, we're going to give it a name, and we're just going to say message body, because this is going to be the body of the message that the person is sending to the recipient, whoever that is, person A or person B, I guess. And we're going to say that we're going to have some certain amount of rows and columns within this, so we can choose the size. Otherwise, we're going to have the default size of whatever this happens to be. So we're going to come over here and we're going to say rows equals, and then some quotation marks, and then we're going to say calls equals, and then some quotation marks. And in between these quotation marks is where we're going to put the number of rows, or however many we want this way, in the number of columns, or however the distance we want horizontally. So for rows I'm going to say 10, and for columns I'm going to say 20, though it's completely up to you, whatever you think looks best. And we'll come over here and refresh. And here's a bigger HTML box, but I'm going to probably say maybe we can double it to 40 and make it a little bit wider. And this should be a decent box for someone to enter in a message. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually add our submit button. And we're going to say input type equals submit, and we're going to give it name equals submit, and we're going to give it a value equals, and we'll say send message, or just send. Send's good. And then we'll close off that button. And before we do that, we'll put a space here. And we'll take a look at what this looks like. So now we have a complete email form, complete with a name options that we can say name is Jamie. We're going to send this to person A or person B, and we'll just type in hi there. And once we click send, it'll send it over using either a post or a get variable. So we'll set that up in a second, but let's just come over here, and we're going to do one more thing with that text area. If you'll remember with the text area, and similar to the option here where we can have some text in between, you can do the same thing with the text area tags, which basically allows you to enter in something that will come will pre-exist within this text box. So if you want the user to already have a message there, like maybe a template or something, you can enter it right in the text area here like this. So let's say, please enter your message here. So all you need to do is enter that between the opening and closing text area boxes, and it will show up within the actual text box when we refresh. So if we come over here and open this again, you'll notice that we have a pre-selected or basically pre-entered message. It basically says please enter your message here. The user can delete it and then proceed to enter their message. So let me just set up how the form is actually going to work to show you how this will be sent again. So within our form tag here, we're going to give it some attributes. And we're going to say action equals, and again we're just going to use our process.php example. The page doesn't exist. But if it did, all these values and names would be sent to that page to be dealt with or processed, however you want to say it. So we're going to say process.php, and our method is what we're going to be concentrating on now. If you remember from the previous two tutorials, the method can either be get or post. Now it doesn't have to be in capital letters, but that's just how we kind of tend to do it. So for a post method, if you'll notice that when we enter in some information, we'll say ASDF, and click send. Ooh, it shouldn't have got sent like that, so we'll just refresh this real quick. Delete all that variable information from here. And we'll refresh, and you'll notice that when we enter in our name and our message with a post variable, nothing will be sent because we're using a post, and that's good for when you're using like sensitive information like passwords, credit card numbers, anything else that you don't want to be sent over here. So if we change this to a get variable and we refresh, you'll notice that, just refresh that there, and you'll notice that when we enter in our information, so we'll say Jamie, person A, and then we'll say our message is hi there, person A, and we send it, you'll notice that all of our information is actually being sent right here in the open using our sender equals Jamie and person equals person A, and the message body and everything is included in here. So that's not something you're going to typically want if you're sending personal data, but if you're doing like a search engine, or you're doing something like sending the name of a particular web page or something like that, something that isn't personal and you don't want to worry about getting viewed by others, you can just do that. There's a couple other reasons to use them, and you can kind of look those up if you want to. But this is basically how we're going to create our third HTML form, which is an email form. Obviously this form isn't going to actually work until we go into the PHP or whatever language we're going to be using to process it, but this is just a basic outline of how to go about doing that. So I actually, after I created the last tutorial, went on to W3 Schools and looked up some more things that I could do with HTML forms to show you. So I'd suggest if you're interested, head on over to W3 Schools and check out some more stuff, especially related to forms, since these are what these tutorials are about. There's other attributes and elements and stuff and tags that you can use with creating forms, but these are just probably some of the more prevalent ones and some of the ones that I figured I'd show you guys. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please feel free to send them in to me. You can leave them in the comments below. And if you're interested in me creating a specific tutorial, just please feel free to let me know. Also, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/JamieMCG for my personal Twitter, and for the Technical Cafe Twitter, which will notify you about all these videos and blog posts. Please feel free to follow that at Technical Cafe. So, thank you for watching, and have a great day.